It's Final Fantasy time, and I don't think I've ever said that. Today we're going to have a look at the Bring Arts Final Fantasy VII Tifa Lockhart. Now, you know me, I like fan service, and that was the main reason I picked this up. Also, I looked at my collection and I told myself, I'm not the biggest Final Fantasy guy, you know, I've played some of the games, but the main reason here is I think Tifa is a really iconic character, and I wanted to have in my collection. Also, I think this design that I chose for this figure nails it, because it really has still that old school charm of the PlayStation 1 game. You know, not the blocky characters, but a little bit more curvy, more detailed, but still retaining some of that anime look and a little bit of the blockiness. So that kind of hits the mark for me, but let's see how well the figure actually fares. Size of Tifa, she stands at about 13 centimeters, a little over that, to the top of her head, which means we are going up to, it's like a little over 5, almost 5.2 inches tall. Size comparisons.
Here's Jolter, the SH Figure Arts Son Goku, Figma Kasumi, the SH Figure Arts 2B, and Darkseid.
Overall, look in detail, I love the classic Final Fantasy vibe we got from there. You know, when I think Final Fantasy, you have like the blocky characters that you have in the game, and then like you have the nicer cutscenes which look more like this, but obviously you do have like the more, the rare cutscenes where everything's like super duper more realistic looking, and I kind of like the in-between look we got over here. First and foremost with the eyes, those are printed on not very cleanly. I mean, you see the dots in there. It's kind of shiny. It's a little bit of a cheap vibe I'm getting from it. And when I say cheap, it's not particularly bad, but when I look at like some figures that are low in price, this is kind of like what I'm getting from like the eyes. So that's not super clean. The earrings are nicely painted. The hair is super duper flowy. You got like the long string going over the shoulder and the kind of dolphin tail that wraps around the back. I always call it dolphin tail because it splits at a weird kind of position like this, but it looks cool. I mean, it's iconic for Tifa. Speaking of iconic, yeah, the boba. The boba is in full effect, hasn't been nerfed. So we do have a bunch of fan service going on. You have the belt buckles with the belts kind of wrapping around the big chest. Paint on here could be cleaner. There is a bunch of bleeding going on. And I've just seen better, man. Also in the back, looks fairly good. But we do also have some spots in the front. Like what happened here? This is kind of unforgivable because it's a big splat on the white. Moving over to the armbands and the gloves. The armbands are molded on, so there's a little bit of difference. But still, we have bleeding once more, going from the black into the skin tone. And a lot more big hands, a little bit more blocky in the gloves, and more bleeding where that came from. So yeah, having a look at the skirt, we have the belt which wraps around that. Looks a little bit more metallic. I like the look, and it's Pantsu time. We got white Pantsu. Unfortunately, on a fanservice type character like this, we do not have a butt mold. Like none of that, not even a hint. Also in the front, just a white pantsuit. Then move down to the legs, where the kneecaps are a lot shinier and a lot brighter than the rest of the legs. It seems like this is unpainted. I mean, it's a joint, but really you could have painted this entire part because it's a big, you know, it's a big kneecap. Why does it stand out so weirdly? Down to the boots, have the socks, which are nicely molded, and the red, brown reddish boots, again a lot bigger. Has the aesthetic of the Final Fantasy VII characters, and there's also some detail under there. So overall, it could be better. Now for the articulation, this is almost Figma levels, which most of the figure is, except for the size being a little bit smaller, but about that anyway. We're moving the head back and forth. You do have a ball hinge and another ball joint in there. So it moves forward super nicely, but because of the hair sculpt, you don't really get much backward movement. And also, it tends to disconnect quite a bit. Side-to-side movement's pretty good. For your shoulder articulation, once again, you have a ball in there and another ball hinge on the shoulder. Where have we heard that before? And I'm not trying to knock them, but I'm just saying. You have a ball hinge in the shoulder itself, so you can bring that up, and with the other ball inside of the chest area. Let me try to move this down. It's also really stiff, and I hope things don't break off if you're trying to move around. But you can bring this back and forth, shift it a little bit up and down, and you can also swivel it on the ball if you hold on to it correctly. I say that because you could have had a bicep swivel where the glove starts, but they didn't do that, so that is a missed opportunity. Then we have a simple ball hinge in the elbow, can move that, and do we have some rotation in there? No, it's stuck quite firmly in there. We have another ball hinge for the fist, move that one up and down, and can also be swiveled. You'll notice that this part of the wrist, while the glove part is just the floaty piece, which is pretty good, so you can pull it up for a cleaner look. And if you want to flex the articulation a little bit, you move it to the back and try to kind of hover it over the ball joint for a better look. So then for the chest area, we do have some articulation in there, but it doesn't really accomplish that much. It goes back and forth a little bit, does tilt side to side, and you can swivel it pretty much all the way around because there's nothing connecting with the belts and whatnot. Those are just molded under there. So that's a pretty cool idea. Could have had a swivel on this part of the shirt, but they didn't do that once again. Do have a little bit movement at the hip part, goes back and forth, and also swivels all the way around once again. None of the belt parts are connected to the skirt, which is a good idea, and the hat just pops up once more. Back and forth motion, side to side tilting is fine. The skirt is cut up in two pieces, so it does help for some high kicks. If you rotate this out, you get it higher like that. Some pretty good poses. Can also be swiveled, and you heard it right there, it's quite squeaky also in the joint, but at least it does hold a pose. Then we have the double hinged knees, move up all the way, nicely done. Once again, missed opportunity to put a swivel where the sock is, but we only have a ball hinge for the boot, so you can bring that up and down, and the pivots, they don't really work so well. It's like really stiff, and I feel like if I force it too much, it might break off, so I'm not gonna do that. Finally, we also have a toe hinge. And now for my least favorite part of the figure, the accessories, or the lack thereof. Here's all the hands you're getting. You got open hands, one for each side, and this kind of like posing, semi-holding hand, which we only get one of them. Like, count that with the fist hands, you only get two sets of hands, and a single one for, I don't even know, for like fighting poses or whatnot. And then also we have a face which has like a stern, angry look on there. Once again, the printed on face isn't too great. And yeah, we don't have a yelling face, we don't have a getting hurt face, we don't have a laughing face, only like a smile and an angry face. And also you got a base, which is fine. You got two sizes for your clamps, one's a little bit bigger, one's a little bit smaller, even though not that big of a difference, but hey, you do get the option. Unfortunately, we don't have the option to just plug it into the back, but that's something that Figma does, and not a lot of other companies do, which I find is kind of sad, because I like that, just to have a stable pose without having one of these clamps around the figure. But hey, not a knock on the figure, the base is pretty good. I like the regular movement in the arms over here, and that's really it. Final thoughts! The word of the day is disappointment. This figure captures the look, which is my favorite part about it, but then it falls flat in just about everything else. The execution is, I want to say, almost kind of laughable at the price point. The articulation is great, and then the accessories, once again, are a disgrace. So, I don't know. Like, the paint should be better. There should be more accessories. And I don't really talk that much about price point, but looking at this figure, looking at the price, I was thinking like, well, this is like a Figma. It's not. I'm not saying that Figmas are cheap. Those are very expensive as well. But where Figmas shine is in the paint department, because most of the figure is painted, and also they usually most of the time knock it out of the park with very cool and a great amount of accessories. This figure doesn't have that. The paint's sloppy, and there is a huge lack of accessories, which kind of really turns me off. And also like the weird size. Why is it smaller like your average Figma? Only, I think, recommended if you're a hardcore Tifa fan and if you're looking for something in this size. It's not bad, but it could be way better. Like, way better. So yeah, that's gonna do it, guys. As usual, thank you very much for watching. Don't forget, if you enjoyed this review, hit it up with a like and subscribe to the channel so you can stay tuned for more figure reviews, card game stuff, and whatever Tifa wants.